All right, guys, here is our Medicare Minute question for today. Can you delay Part A and Part B if you have credible coverage? Some agents say, yeah, you can delay B, but not A. Some say, yeah, you can delay them both. The truth is, really, it just depends. I guess technically you could do whatever you want, but not to incur any penalties or anything negative happen to you, it depends. So let's take this on. This is probably going to be a 4 or 5 minute. This is Ansel, a 4 or 5 minute Medicare Minute. I'm going to drop right into it. All right, unsurprisingly and thankfully, really, this question comes up a lot because if you give someone the wrong instruction on this, you could give them a penalty that follows them literally for the rest of their life. So let's burn this into our brain. The safest reason to delay Medicare is because you're on current employer coverage that you are actively employed in. Not that, oh yeah, I got insurance or I got a card or my doctor takes what I have. No, it has to be group coverage tied to someone actively working. So if you're on the phone with a client, I would ask it like this to them if they ask if they can delay. Mr. Mrs. Client, are you actively working right now? Or if you're on your spouse's plan, is your spouse actively working? Because that's the answer that's going to determine what you can delay and what you might not be able to delay, at least without penalties. Let's do Part B first. So if someone has group insurance through active employment, they can usually delay Part B with no penalty. That's your standard member who says, yeah, I'm 65, but I'm going to continue working and stay on employer group health plan. Now, why does that matter? Because Part B is the one that for most people has a monthly premium. I know Part A can too, but that's not reality for most people. Part B also has a late enrollment penalty if you miss the rules. I understand Part A can also, but it's not reality for most people. And it's the one that most people accidentally mess up. So Part B is commonly delayed depending on the employer group health plan. And what you might find out is that group health plan is more expensive and less comprehensive than what Medicare could give you anyways. Now, Part A. Part A is usually premium free, at least, like I said, for most people. So people would assume, hey, since it's premium free, why wouldn't you just take Part A at 65? And that's the case with most of the members I've sat down with. That's true for them. Hey, it's premium free. It's going to give you some extra coverage. Delay Part B, keep Part A. But what agents should know is that Part A is not always mandatory at 65, and there are legitimate situations where delaying Part A is not the right move. For an example, the biggest one I can think of is based on HSA contributions. You know, if someone's on an employer group health plan and contributing to an HSA, once Medicare Part A starts, you can't continue contributing that same way without tax penalties associated with it. So you may have a client who's completely healthy, they're still working, they've got a great group insurance plan, they've got an HSA that they're funding, and the best financial play for them might be, hey, let's delay Part A, let's delay Part B, stay on our group plan so we can keep this HSA strategy clean. Because an HSA is a fabulous way to build into your retirement. So there can be a time where you delay both, and that's really the answer that I see most often. But you need to have the right scenario because you don't want to cost someone tax consequences that they needlessly didn't have to be a part of. The part that can wreck people would be something like this. Let's say your member's coverage is COBRA, right? Or it's retiree coverage, because a lot of people assume retiree coverage or even COBRA is going to work the same way as their employer coverage did. It doesn't. COBRA is usually not considered active employer coverage. Same thing with retiree plans. So here's the trap you'll see people fall into. You've got a member and they're talking about delaying enrollment in Medicare, and the member says, oh yeah, I've got my group plan, I'm good. But what they really have is either COBRA benefits, or a retiree group plan from their previous employer, or coverage that's not tied to any active employment that they only have because at one point in time they did work for that member or that employer. And that's when Medicare will expect enrollment. And that's how you find people who surprisingly get hit with these late enrollment penalties or gaps in coverage or delayed effective dates and angry families and office managers and members. So as agents, I would say we shouldn't ask, do you have insurance? Because that's not enough. Or even, do you have employer coverage? That's not the right question. We need to ask them, are you currently working? is the plan you're on from current employment or your spouse's current employment. That's the difference then between having a member who can delay without penalty or gaps in coverage and one that essentially will be a disaster. So let me give you 3 quick examples kind of to fulfill what I'm trying to tell you. We'll do the first example. Let's say you've got a member, they are still employed, they're turning 67, they're full-time with employer group benefits. Well, at 65, they decided to delay Part A, and let's say they're not contributing to an HSA. So they went ahead and took Part A, right? That's fine. When they leave that employer group health plan, no stress to them. This is very common. They can enroll in Part B. They'll have 63 days to take a Part D drug plan. They'll have 8 months to take a Medicare supplement, no underwrite. Or excuse me. 8 months to take Part B and 6 months to take a Medicare supplement. She's another example. We've got a lady, she's 66, and she's not working, but her husband is, and he's continuing to work. So she stays on his employer plan as spousal benefits and delays enrollment in Part B. It's completely fine. No gaps in coverage, no penalties. She's good when he retires, they can both come on to Part B and they can take a Medicare supplement or an MA plan, whatever they want. However, if a member is retired and they took COBRA or they stayed on retiree coverage at 65, if they don't enroll into Medicare, that's really the dangerous area. Your member may think that they're covered, but COBRA is not the same protection as active employer coverage when it comes to delaying Medicare. So we should follow a set of steps to make sure that doesn't happen to our members. We need to ask them, are you actively working? If you are, is the coverage you have tied to your active employment, or is it from some retiree plan when you had union benefits? If it's tied to your employment, yeah, Part B can be delayed, probably not an issue. Part A can too, assuming we're not contributing to an HSA. But when you're ready to leave your group coverage, we need to use a special enrollment period and get that employer verification handled. Enroll in an A and B, we need CMS 40B, we need L564. Filling these things out if you're delaying Medicare. So let me end with this because this was a pretty quick one. Most Medicare penalties don't happen because your client did something dumb on purpose. They happen because Medicare's rules can be confusing, and everyone, it seems, has a different answer, right? And that's why you exist.